I love dragons in death, because they are fun.
Okay, this is Tory Survives Game of Thrones, episode 15. And we are on chapter 14, Catelyn 3. It is a blind reading slash, comedic abridgment of the Song of Ice and Fire book series. So to get in without further ado, we're sitting and Catelyn is with Bran because Bran still hasn't woken up. He's extra emaciated. His hair's getting longer. She's just beside herself. And the maester's walking in and he has the ledger with him. And he's like, hey, we really need to talk about this. That royal visit really cost us. And she's beside herself with grief still. She's like half mad. And she's like, I know what it cost us. Just staring at Bran holding his hand. Because I guess she hasn't been sleeping. She hasn't been eating nothing. And then on top of that, the maester's still pushing. And he's like, they ate a lot. Like, we need to, fill up the stores and everything. And she's like, the steward will handle it, man. And he's like, the steward left with Ned to help him set up. And speaking of that, we need another master of horses. And she's like, does it look like I care about horses right now? She's like, if I thought it would help Bran, I would slaughter every horse in this entire place, right? And she's like yelling at the maester for like even trying to bother her with this stuff. And that's when Robb walks in. And the maester's like she feels kind of whatever about it, and he's like, we really need to handle these appointments. And Robb's like, I'll handle the appointments, And Maester walks up, he hands him a list of names and stuff. Robb looks it over, he's like, these are good men, hands it back. And the Maester kind of skedaddles. Robb turns to Catelyn, he's like, Mom, what are you doing? People need you, And she's like, Bran needs me. Okay? Bran needs me. Can you not see Bran right here? And Robb is like, Rickon needs you. Sorry. But he's like, Rickon needs you. Little Ricky has been following me around. He thinks everyone just abandoned him, because everybody's gone. Even his mom. He's like holding on to my cape and he won't let go. He's literally following me everywhere. And she's kind of like, and he starts breaking a little bit, because the thing about Robb is trying his best to stand up and be the next Lord of Winterfell that he's supposed to become, but no one has trained him how to be a Lord of Winterfell. That was her job, so he's got no training. His mom is distraught. His brother is comatose. His other brother is crying, holding onto his cape anywhere he tries to go. And he's only 14. He has no training. So he's like, and I need you, okay? I'm doing my best out here, but I don't know what I'm doing, And she kind of sees, she's like, Robb's only 14, it dawns on her again, but she's like, Robb, I can't leave Bran. What if Bran needs me? What if he wakes up and I'm not there, right? Because I think what's going on here is when Bran got hurt, it was something she was already worried about, and then she wasn't there for him, so she's overcompensating by just not leaving Bran. Period. That's all she knows that she can do that might help. So she is tunnel vision on not leaving Bran, And right then, Bran's wolf starts howling, And Robb kind of instinctually walks over and he opens the windows, which is kind of weird. These wolves, man, I don't know, because you know, there was the aforementioned, like when they tried to shut it, like Bran seemed to weaken, and then he opens it, and the mom she's like, oh, I wish these wolves would stop. And kind of on cue, the next two wolves, you know, start like howling and stuff. So it's like, oh, 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 you know, like they just, all three of them are sitting there, and they have like these mournful howls and stuff. And Rob actually says, he's like, because she's like, Bran needs to stay warm, you know, shut that window. And he's like, Bran needs to hear the wolves, you know, which to me was kind of like, okay, what's going on? Like, why would he feel like that? And then he's like Shaggy Dog, which is Lil Ricky's wolf, and he's like Grey Wind, you know, and he's like, you can tell them apart if you really listen. And they've only had those wolves for about 3 months, okay, and he can already tell each wolf by their howl. So there's something's going on with these wolves. I don't know, because, you know, even Nymeria, you know, like she had what, that might have been 2.5 months, and like she was just pointing at stuff, and Nymeria was grabbing it and handing it to her, you know, like, so I don't know if they got like some kind of bond with them, or the wolves are psychic, or what's going on exactly. But there's I don't think it's completely just wolves, because at first I was like, huh, those are really smart, and then this stuff started happening, and I'm like, maybe there's more to it. But she loses it. Catelyn loses it, because she just keeps hearing the howls, and she's like, can you just stop the wolves? Like, I don't care if you have to kill the wolves, but stop the wolves, right? Like, she's losing it. She's just like, I can't, you know. And Rob's like, look, the wolves would never hurt Bran, you know, like the wolves are fine. And he's defending the wolves again. So I don't know, maybe there's something there, but she's pushing, so he's like going to shut the windows, and when he's standing there, he's like, fire, you know, and that's all he says, like no context, he's just fire, right? So Catelyn freaks out thinking there's a fire in this building, and she's like, help me with Bran, right? And he's like, no, in the library. Right? So way to bury the lead, Rob. But luckily, like, Catelyn knows, like, if it's all the way over in the library tower, you know, there's no way the fire is going to reach, you know, where they are. So Rob is instantly, he's like, you take care of Bran, I'm going to go try to take care of this fire. And you hear him like run down, because like all the dogs are barking and everything. So he knows something's up. Like, that's why he started looking, because it was the wolves, which was normal. And then it was all the dogs barking too. And that's when he saw the fire. So he's running down. People are yelling fire, like out in the courtyard and stuff. Like, there's a big to-do. And Catelyn goes and she shuts the window, like shuts the shutters, you know, to try to shut out the noise and go back to Bran. But when she turns around, there's a dude standing there. And the dude is filthy. He like stinks. He's got like this flat blonde hair. He's got like sunken eyes. He's like kind of emaciated, and he's holding a dagger, right? And the only thing he says is, you weren't supposed to be here, right? And Catelyn like looks at Bran, looks at him, and she's like, no. You know, like, no. And she turns, because she's gonna go like yell for help, or the guards, or whatever. And he slides up behind her. He's got her like by the mouth, and he's got like the dagger going up like towards her neck. And I guess Tullys are built a little bit gangster, because she grabs the blade, you know, but with both hands, so it can't, you know, get to her neck. And then she like moves her hand, and she bites right there into the palm of his hand. And it says like, not only does she bite, but she's like grinding her teeth trying to bite a chunk out of this guy's hand. right? To the point where he is obviously shell-shocked because he was not ready for Catelyn, and he was not ready for Catelyn to be a gangster, you know? So he like grabs her by the back of the hair and he throws her away from him because she's actually biting a chunk out of his hand, right? And then he's not paying attention, right? So I'm gonna reenact some stuff for you. You have to forgive my actor. He's a paid actor though. But he just hears this little like just really tiny, right? And as soon as he moves, it's just right, and he's got him like up under, and they're on top of Catelyn, and then just right, just rips his throat out. Okay. And Catelyn is like, what the hell? Because, you know, like, it rains blood on her face, basically. And she realizes that it's Bran's wolf. You know, and Bran's wolf's just sitting there like a good boy, like, staring at her. You know, like, you good? And all she can manage, because she's exasperated and just got, like, chunks ripped out of her hair and stuff. She's like, thank you, you know? And the wolf, again, ever the good boy, it like licks the blood off her hands, you know, to try to help her. And then he jumps in bed with Bran. And he's just laying there next to Bran, waiting for whoever, you know. And Catelyn, at this point, like, she's in shock. She's, you know, sleep deprived, everything. She just starts laughing uncontrollably. Like, pretty much hysterical laughter. So she's you know, like that, like, my life, this is my life, right? And she's still laughing when, you know, Robb shows back up with the maester and all of that, and they're just like, what the fuck, you know? Because there's like a body on the floor with his throat ripped out. Bran's wolf's in his bed. Catelyn's on the floor laughing, hands sliced up. You know, she's got a part of her scalp is just bleeding from where the hair got ripped out. And the maester is just like, I think he was a little bit calculating, but he's like, oh, this is going to get worse before it gets better. You better drink this. And he kind of dopes her with milk of the poppy. And next thing we know, right, is 4 days later, because she slept for 4 days, just solid, you know. She pretty much needed it. She hadn't slept for like half a week, you know. Then she got attacked. She had to fight for her life. All the stress, everything had just caught up. But when she's well rested and stuff, she kind of wakes up and she's psyching herself up. Like, she kind of has a little more clarity, and she's like, I've been failing everybody. I've been letting everybody down. I'm not running this place. I'm not helping Robb. I can't do this. Like, I gotta put on my Tully panties and show them what a Tully does. Like, she even mentions, you know, I'm gonna show these Northerners how tough a Tully is, right? So I'm kind of getting why Ned's like, all right, though, like, I kind of, that's my wife, you know? And she just pops up and she's like, I need some bread and some honey. Someone get the maesters. I need my bandages changed, you know? And everybody in the room, like the attendants and stuff, they're like, oh, scatter, right? And they start doing whatever. Now, Robb shows up before, like, the food or the maester or anything. And he shows up. He's got a bunch of people in tow. He's got Roderick, you know, the Master of Arms. And he's got Theon with him, Theon Greyjoy. And they have this guy, I'm going to get his name wrong. But it's a Mullen. Like Hasselmullen or Hasselmullen, but Mullen, and he's the new captain of the guard, and he's like a real kind of muscly, kind of stocky soldier. Like, she knows him, and he's got like this little square beard and stuff. And you know, he pretty much says as much. Like, Robb is like, that's the new captain of the guard, you know? And they're talking, and he's like, word was, they've seen him around for about 2 weeks, so we're thinking, and Catelyn's like, so he's one of the King's men, or the Lannisters, you know, because Theon, like, chimes in, like, or the Lannisters, and they're just trying to get to the bottom of it and figure out, like, who the hell this guy was. And Robb's like, you know, like, what happened? And she's like, he was after Bran, you know? And Robb's like, why would anybody want to kill Bran? Like, Bran's 7, you know? And she's like, you need to figure that out if you're going to be the Lord of Winterfell, okay? Like, and Bran's sitting there, and Robb's sitting there thinking about Bran, and he's like, because they didn't want him to wake up. Like, he knows something. They're scared of something he knows. And Catelyn's like, my boy, right? And they're talking a little bit, and she's like, you know, they're like, how did nobody catch this guy? You know, because Theon's like, he was sleeping in the stables. Like, you could smell it on him. And she's like, how did nobody find him in the stables? And, you know, like, Mullen, you know, chimes up, and he's like, well, with all the horses going south and, you know, just as many, like, you know, a bunch of horses going north, the stable was half empty. So it would have been easier for him to hide. We actually noticed that Hodor was acting kind of weird, but it's Hodor, so we just figured it was because he's special, you know, because if you remember, Bran remembers there's a guy, Hodor, who works in the stables, but all Hodor ever says is Hodor, you know, so it's like, what's the matter, Hodor? All right, that didn't help. Anyway, so poor Hodor. Anyway, so they're like kind of going through it, and they're like, okay, so he's new. He had to be with the Kings or the Lannisters and stuff. We searched the stable, and we found 90 silver Starks. So someone paid this guy 90 pieces of silver to take out Bran, which is a considerable amount. Like, you know, Catelyn's like, well, at least Bran didn't go cheap, you know? So whoever put it on had 90 silver, you know, to spend on this. And then on top of that, you know, Catelyn's kind of like, okay, look, I need you guys to shut the door, you know, and I'm going to need y'all to pinky swear me. Nobody says what I'm about to say outside of this room. Because if anybody says anything, Ned, my daughters, half of my family could die, you know. And Theon actually stands up, and he's like, Ned's like a second father to me. My house owes your house. Pinky swear. And so she says oath, but I just picture them all as pinky swearing. Right, so they're like, right? And then Broderick, Master of Arms, you know, he's down. Right? Also, important to note, just while I'm doing this, side note, Poole, you know, went with the captain of the guard, went with Ned, so Arya's bully went with her, like, you know, Jenny Poole, who calls her Horseface, like, she didn't escape the bully, but she did escape Beth, who I don't know if Beth's like mean or whatever, but she was just swooning with the other girl. Anyway, so then Broderick, you know, bump, right? Mullen, he's like, hell yeah. You know, Lewin's like, you know me, right? And then she's like, Robb? And Robb's like, shit, Mom, that's all you had to say, you know? And as soon as, like, it's all locked down and they kissed it, right? She's like, okay, I got a letter from Liza. She's pretty sure that Cersei killed Jon Arryn. Like, she's really sure. And I believe her. Okay? And me thinking about this, Jamie didn't go on the hunt. You know, Jamie Lannister. So I think Bran didn't fall. I think he got yeeted out a window. Right? And it's beautiful because everybody in that room just starts, ooh, you know, and I think it's Roderick. He's like, I mean, surely the Lion of Lannister is gonna flinch before he kills an innocent kid. And Theon's like, would he though? You know? and that's when Catelyn's like, Lannister pride and ambition has no limit, you know? And then they all kind of just collectively, it's like team yeet the Lannisters out a window, to the point where Robb gets fired up, because I'm starting to think Robb gets fired up like a lot. He pulls his brand new shiny sword. He's like, I'll kill Jamie, right? And he's like, pulls it out in the air, and Roderick is just like, oh, Robb, do not pull your sword unless you're gonna use it. You know, like, what are you gonna do? Stab Jamie Lannister from 80 miles away? Like, put your sword away. Stop acting like a kid. And Robb instantly, he's just like, God damn it. Like, puts his sword back, and he's looking sheepishly. And Catelyn's like, oh, so he has live steal now. And Roderick kind of reads it, and he's just like, I felt it was time. You know? And then on top of that, you know, sorry, I blanked for a second. On top of that, she's like, it's been past time, you know, because there's a time coming where we might need every sword in Winterfell, and they best not be made of wood, you know, because apparently Catelyn is currently about that life. You know, like, you come after Bran, it's over. And Theon, you know, like, kind of reading the same vibe, surprises me again. He steps up again, and he, like, puts his hand on his hilt, and he's like, my house owes yours, you know, let's do it. Basically, like, if you mess with the Bran, you get the Kraken, you know, because apparently that's how Theon talks from now on, for humor's sake, right? Anyway, and, you know, Catelyn's like, bet. And that's when the Maester brings up the dagger. And he's like, did you get eyes on that dagger? And she's like, I was kind of busy. I can tell you that it's sharp, you know, like, showing her hands and stuff. And that's about all I saw. And he's like, okay, bet. That dagger was Valyrian steel with dragonbone on the hilt. And they're like, damn, okay. Because think about it, like, whoever did this thought they were slick, and then they're like, oh, by the way, just so nothing can trace back to me, here's a one-of-a-kind dagger that's probably worth as much as a small town. Right? And that's what they find with them. Maybe it's because Bran was nobility, so they didn't want him killed with a common weapon. I don't know the reasoning, but it wasn't smart. You know, so the Maester is sitting there, and he's like, there's no way that dagger isn't noticed missing. You know what I mean? And Catelyn gets it. She's like, right. You know, because it's like a one-of-a-kind dagger. So if they find who's missing the dagger, they find who put a hit on Bran, essentially. And she's like, okay, who can we send to figure out, you know, who's missing the dagger or whatever? And they can't, you know, like, she can't decide. She's like, okay, I guess I got to do it myself, right? And on top of that, she's like going through them all, and she's like, nobody's gonna believe anybody. I have to go, you know. And Broderick being a bro. He's like, as much as I love the idea of a noble lady being alone on the King's Road, you know, I'm gonna have to come with you. And she's like, okay, I see your point, Roderick, but I'm not gonna be on the King's Road. You come in, but we're going down the White Dagger. We're gonna go to the coast. We're gonna get a ship, you know, because we're gonna be moving way faster than a slow column, you know, with a pull cart and all that. And we're gonna beat them to King's Landing, and that's the plan. And then they're all just kind of like, okay, hands in, Team Yeet Lannister's out a window, you know. And that's the end of the chapter. So hopefully someone's gonna take the Lion of Lannister and then yeet him out a window, and that is my hope. But you okay? But yeah, he's good. He's fine. He's a stunt lion. All right. So I'm Tory Torrential. This was Tory Survives Game of Thrones chapter. I had these right. Episode 15, chapter 14, Catelyn 3. Apparently, I just speak in codes now. And I love you. Thanks for watching my show. Like and subscribe.